you enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. On the day my life finally faded away, Frederick knelt beside my bed, weeping soundlessly. "Bella, let us be husband and wife again in the next life," he pleaded. Yet, when I opened my eyes once more, I had returned to the year I was 16, the very day Duke Lie's household came to propose marriage. True to the promise of our past life, Frederick also arrived to seek a hand in marriage. Hiding behind a folding screen, I heard his voice ring out clearly. "I am Frederick, son of Minister Chen, and today I come to ask for the hand of the second miss of your noble house." The moment I heard him change his mind and seek to marry my younger sister instead, I understood immediately that he, just like me, had been reborn. I breathed a sigh of relief. I absolutely did not want to step foot into the tiger's den of the Chen family ever again. Rumors in the capital claimed that the heir of Duke Li was wild and arrogant. However, the Duke's household had few members, the family rules were simple, and Duchess Li had a generous and open spirit. I remembered that in my previous life, even though I had rejected this marriage proposal, she still treated me with great warmth and kindness. Therefore, this marriage alliance with the Duke's estate was completely acceptable. As for myself, I was originally a renowned noble lady of the capital. Since childhood, Lady Ming, my mother, had devoted herself to teaching me how to manage the inner courtyard and manage the account books. Every time I accompanied her to banquets, my speech and conduct were prudent and perfect, leaving no room for anyone to find even a single fault. Because my good reputation spread far and wide, suitors came in an endless stream, but my heart at that time was directed only towards Frederick. Thus, I asked my mother to refuse them all. Frederick had a handsome appearance and his literary talent was not bad. I recalled years ago when I accidentally dropped a scent pouch, he picked it up but lowered his eyes and handed it to my maid to return to me, maintaining proper etiquette between men and women. That demeanor was indeed humble and elegant, his gestures kind. Later, when I heard of his outstanding poetry at the literary gathering, I fell in love with him. We had secretly made a pact. He said he would come to propose after passing the provincial exams. I thought that by marrying the man I loved, the days ahead would be peaceful and sweet, but reality was far too cruel. The mistress of the Chen family came from a rural background and had been mocked by other noble ladies in her youth for being vulgar. On the second day after I became a bride, she immediately established strict rules for me and subsequently made things difficult many times. Although she claimed to hand over the housekeeping authority to me, in reality, the Chen family's foundation was thin, and there was little wealth in the storehouse. Whether it was social relations or matters big and small within the household, everything fell upon my shoulders. Over time, I had to use my own dowry to make up the deficit. If Frederick had remained consistent and affectionate towards me, it would have been bearable. However, after only a year, he became cold and there was no sweetness left from the past. He told me that life was simply like that, and I believed him. I thought that treating each other with mutual respect was peaceful enough. But after the second year, he wanted to take a concubine. The person chosen was none other than his distant cousin, whom my mother-in-law had brought into the manor a year prior, under the pretense of finding her a good marriage in the capital. After searching here and there, they ultimately chose Frederick. Frederick swore it was only for the sake of kinship, and that he would absolutely not let her surpass me. He assured me that in this house, I was still the one in charge, and I believed him. I swallowed my tears and drank the tea offered by the concubine. After she entered the household, Frederick often used work as an excuse, saying it was inconvenient to disturb my rest, and then naturally went to sleep in the concubine's room. 3 months later she was pregnant, while I had been married for 2 years without any good news. No matter how generous I was or how much face I kept, I could not hold back my tears. Frederick comforted me by saying that when the child was born, he would bring it to me to raise. That was no comfort. It was clearly a demand for me to accept a concubine's child as my legitimate son. My intuition told me that the relationship between him and his cousin was far from simple. I ordered people to secretly investigate, and only then did I realize the truth. The Chen family had brought the cousin to the capital from the very beginning with the sole purpose of making her Frederick's concubine. I was resentful and unwilling, but no matter how much bitter medicine I drank, my stomach remained flat. Another year passed, and I went to great lengths to seek a divine physician. After taking my pulse, the physician affirmed that my body was completely healthy. He subtly reminded me that if a woman does not conceive for a long time, the cause may also lie with the man. I used the excuse of inviting a doctor to check the pulse for the peace of the whole household. Sure enough, the physician discovered a shocking truth. Frederick suffered from a congenital deficiency and could absolutely never father children in this lifetime. I let out a bitter laugh. It turned out that the child in the cousin's womb was not his flesh and blood at all. Frederick wanted me to raise a bastard of unknown parentage, so I decided I would raise it. I was a person who believed in an eye for an eye, and since the Chen family treated me like a joke, I would not let them live in peace either. From then on, I changed my temperament and became unusually generous, no longer caring about trivial matters. My mind became peaceful, and I lived to the age of 67. Even as Frederick knelt by my bed weeping, and swearing that he wanted to be tied together again in the next life, in my heart I only thought, please let us never meet again. Thinking about how the descendants of the Chen family did not have a single person carrying his bloodline, and that after he died the family legacy would completely change owners, I smiled with satisfaction even as I closed my eyes for the last time. In my previous life, when I insisted on marrying Frederick, Scarlett had tried her best to dissuade me, saying that the Chen family was not a good place to find shelter. I only hoped that in this life, Scarlett would have clear eyes and a pure heart, and not worry so much about others that she forgot her own suffering. You want to marry me? Scarlett walked in from outside, her pomegranate red skirt brilliant as fire, her face revealing unconcealed anger. Frederick clasped his hands in greeting, seemingly blind to her fury, still maintaining a gentle and measured smile. The second miss is innocent and lively, with peerless beauty. I have admired you for a long time. Unexpectedly, Scarlett did not hold back and did not give him even half a portion of respect. You sour scholar, deceitful heart. This lady hates your type the most, hypocritical to the extreme. I will absolutely not marry you. Scarlett had a fiery and unrestrained temperament, accustomed to causing trouble since childhood, completely contrary to my calm personality. That year, witnessing the Chen family treat me poorly, Scarlett rolled up her sleeves intending to settle the score with Frederick as soon as she heard the story. But fortunately, I stopped her. In my previous life, she had advised me to divorce and return home, to remarry rather than waste my youth in the Chen family. But by then my heart had already grown cold. I was used to the Chen household, and I truly did not want to go elsewhere and have to adapt from the beginning. In my previous life, after knowing Frederick was sterile and that the whole Chen family had conspired to deceive me, I no longer had any respect for the old woman who sought ways to torment her daughter-in-law every day. You want me to manage the household? Fine, but do not dream of taking silver from my private treasury. Do not even think about it. Is the house short of silver? Then it is simple, tighten your belts and live. At our most destitute, with 7 mouths to feed, the meal tray for each meal consisted of only 3 meager vegetarian dishes. What could be done? My husband was just a poor scholar without a court salary. The meager salary of my father-in-law was not enough to support this entire large manor. As the mistress of the house, I was also very reluctant. What was that? You want me to use my dowry to make up for it? If this matter were to be rumored outside, and if a censor presented a petition to the emperor stating that the Chen family relied on their daughter-in-law's dowry to support the family, I fear it would affect my father-in-law's official career. In truth, the Chen family was not that poor. After all, it was a minister's residence. No matter how poor, they did not lack food. It was just that my mother-in-law intentionally tormented me, demanding ginseng and bird's nest for nourishment every day. Previously, I had poured all my capital into this house. Later, when I reclaimed all that money, the household naturally lost a large sum and the poverty was revealed. Returning to reality, Scarlett was pulled aside by Lady Ming. Seeing Frederick's expression stiffen slightly, I curled my lips in a faint smile. He sought to marry Scarlett simply because he thought she had a simple mind and would be easier to manipulate than me. Seeing that Scarlett was not foolish, my heart felt at peace. I stepped out gracefully from behind the folding screen. Seeing me appear, everyone in the house looked at me with worry. Everyone knew how infatuated I had been with Frederick. Scarlett hurriedly stepped forward, angrily holding my hand tightly. Sister, do not be sad. Seeing his true face now is a good thing, better than regretting it when it is too late to turn back. I looked at the younger sister, whom I had always considered foolish, only to realize she saw things much more clearly than I did. Great wisdom appears as stupidity. This was exactly it. Facing Frederick, who was guiltily avoiding my gaze, I held my head high, maintaining the demeanor of the eldest daughter of a great family. Young Master Chen, please leave. The daughters of the Ming family will absolutely not marry you. Having said that, I turned to my father, my voice firm. Father, please invite the people from Duke Lai's estate in. Hearing this, Scarlet panicked. Sister, even if you are heartbroken, you cannot ruin your life like this. That hair is famous for being a devil incarnate, arrogant and unyielding to anyone. You absolutely cannot marry him. Sebastian Li. I had met him before. A year ago, I was sitting in a carriage strolling through the streets when I suddenly heard a commotion outside. A man was harassing a common girl in broad daylight. I was about to order my servants to intervene when a young man rushed out of the crowd and kicked that man straight in the face. The young master hates scum like you the most. How dare you bully a common girl right under the emperor's feet? Today I will beat you to death. The kick caused blood to stream from the man's nose, and he screamed in anger. Do you know who I am? Dare to touch me? The young man crossed his arms over his chest, looking wild and unruly, and sneered. This young master is the heir of Duke Li, Sebastian. Tell me, what kind of thing are you? Hearing the name, the man's face drained of blood, and he immediately tucked his tail and fled. Sebastian snorted coldly, raised his hand to lightly brush away a lock of hair blown by the wind on his forehead, looking extremely smug. Even after I was married, the name Sebastian occasionally reached my ears. He and Frederick seemed born to be as different as water and fire. Occasionally, Frederick would return home with a bruised face. While I helped him apply medicine, I had to listen to him grit his teeth and complain that Sebastian caused trouble for no reason. In the beginning, I also blamed that rude youth. I resented him for relying on his noble status as an heir to bully my husband. Later, when Frederick passed the exams and became an official, Sebastian also entered the imperial court, obtaining a leisurely position. By then, I already knew clearly that Frederick could not have children. Sebastian submitted petitions numerous times to accuse Frederick. One day he scolded him for inviting colleagues to drink, calling it forming factions for evil plots. The next day he scolded him for having a dirty official uniform, calling it disrespectful before the throne. Frederick was tormented to the point of mental and physical exhaustion but was completely powerless to resist. It was also from then on that my view of Sebastian changed significantly. If one spoke of his character, he was truly consistent from beginning to end. If he hated someone, he showed it openly, targeting Frederick in the court for an entire lifetime. He even hated by association, from my father-in-law to Frederick's adopted son. Everyone was treated equally by him. I just sat securely on the mountain watching two tigers fight, feeling strangely satisfied. At that time, I felt that Sebastian was also an interesting person, only that Sebastian never took a wife or concubine in his life. In his middle age, he adopted a child from a side branch to carry on the family line, and his body remained strong like a pine tree. By the time I closed my eyes and passed away, he was still alive and healthy. Perhaps thanks to the years of exercising his muscles and bones on Frederick, he was so resilient. Having experienced the vicissitudes of my previous life, no matter how the world gossiped, in my memory, Sebastian was still a good person, a gentleman who, even if he did not love, would not trample upon his wife. If I had to marry in this life, marrying him was the best strategy. Frederick and the matchmaker were invited out of the manor. As he walked away, his face was still full of bewilderment and confusion. Did he still have the delusion that Scarlet had feelings for him? Scarlet had always been polite to him simply out of respect for her sister, seeing that I was infatuated with him. So she reluctantly maintained a little courtesy, yet it caused him to have such ridiculous hallucinations. It seemed I had given him too much face. The servants rushed in to report, inviting the people from the Duke's estate in. According to etiquette, being a young lady of the boudoir, it was not convenient for me to appear in the front hall, but my personal maid, Luna, could listen and report back. Thanks to that, I learned that the Duke's estate attached such great importance to this marriage proposal. Luna's voice trembled with excitement. Miss, the Duke's estate has sent many people, and the person leading the way is none other than Princess Beatrice herself, followed by Duke and Duchess Li. In addition, there are several unfamiliar ladies, but looking at their splendid clothes and jewelry, they must be of imperial lineage or relatives of the Duke's estate. Roughly counting, not including the servants following to serve, the group coming to propose marriage numbered more than 10 people. That solemn formation startled me. Even Scarlet, who was usually brave enough to touch the sky, was stunned for a long time. She said that even the Princess Royal had personally descended. This honor and favor was likely unique in the entire capital. Since the death of her husband, Princess Beatrice had remained chaste in her private estate, rarely appearing before outsiders. Yet today, for the sake of the heir's proposal, the Duke's estate was able to invite her to leave her seclusion. Comparing such a vast difference, the superficial attitude of Frederick towards me in my previous life became all too clear. It was a pity that at that time, my eyes were blinded by love, my mind so befuddled I could not distinguish black from white, real from fake. Receiving my nod of approval, the marriage between the Ming and Li families was decided comfortably. On the second day after the betrothal ceremony, Princess Beatrice's estate sent an invitation, inviting me to a flower appreciation banquet. In my heart, I vaguely guessed that this banquet was likely organized for me. Arriving at the princess's estate, a maid respectfully led me to a quiet pavilion. Seeing the familiar figure waiting there, the speculation in my heart immediately turned into certainty. It was Sebastian. He wore a jade, green brocade robe, a white jade crown on his head, standing as straight as a pine tree. In that moment, I was stunned, as if I saw Frederick's scholarly shadow on him, but the last time we met, he clearly wore clothes as red as fire, with a wild nature and arrogant aura. Seeing me staring at his outfit, his whole body suddenly stiffened, his voice sounding somewhat awkward. What do you think of my attire? I pursed my lips and shook my head slightly. His face immediately went a few shades paler. This way of dressing does not suit the prince. The outfit you wore last time looked much more pleasing to the eye. As soon as the words left my lips, his face looked like ice melting in the wild, spring returning to the human world. He unconsciously took a step forward, then as if suddenly remembering something, hurriedly stepped back to keep his distance. Do you still remember me? Initially, I thought he had been forced and was not very satisfied with this marriage, but looking at his expression now, it seemed that was not the case. I replied, I have met you. Did you ask to meet me today because you want to break off the engagement? No. He immediately denied it, his voice firm. I only wanted to know if your agreement to this marriage came from a sincere heart or not. I asked back, it is true, then what? And if it is not, then what? His expression gradually darkened. If it is not, I will find a way to cancel the engagement. Marriage is a lifelong matter. I do not want you to suffer any grievance. I could not help but cover my mouth and laugh softly. Sebastian was truly a gentleman. Seeing me smile, he also grinned, a smile carrying a few parts of innocence rarely seen in a powerful hair. Looking at that awkward scholarly outfit completely out of tune with his aura, I gently advised, in the future, do not dress like this anymore, you look like someone down on their luck. After saying it, I felt a bit regretful. Although we were betrothed, I seemed to be managing too widely. Okay. He nodded sharply, obedient to the point of surprising me. He clasped his hands behind his back, his eyes confusedly staring at the tips of his embroidered shoes, muttering softly, Miss Ming, in front of me, you do not need to be formal. You can say whatever you want, you managing me makes me very happy. How straightforward and sincere the heart of a youth was. Those bright eyes, untainted by the dust of the world, were like the brilliant sunlight tearing through the dark night, making the thoughts in my heart suddenly as clear as day. All the strange things from before found their answer in this moment. Sebastian, I know your secret now. You like me. I never knew when he had set his eyes on me. Whether in the previous life or this one, this was the first time he and I truly faced each other. I have a small gift I want to give you. He held out a purple sandalwood box, the size of a palm, with a brilliant ruby inlaid on the lid. He carefully opened the lid. Resting on the soft red silk was a jade bracelet with a warm and moist quality that looked somewhat familiar. With just a glance, I knew this bracelet was invaluable, absolutely not something that could be given casually. Seeing me hesitate to accept it, he panicked and self-reproachfully patted his forehead. Did I act rudely? Please do not be angry. This bracelet is just a common item and carries no binding meaning. Before giving it to you, only the craftsman had touched it, and I have not touched it with my skin either, so it is very clean. My throat tightened. He was being too careful with me. I told him I did not mind that matter, and even if he had touched it, it would be fine, but this bracelet was too precious, and I feared I could not accept it. If people in the Duke's estate saw their hair groveling like this, I feared everyone would feel hardish. He hurriedly explained, saying it was not precious at all. He still felt that what he gave me was not good enough, so I had to accept the box. Just then, the maid from earlier appeared again. Miss Ming, the banquet ahead is about to begin, please follow this servant. I curtsied slightly to bid farewell to Sebastian. He seemed anxious and called out after me. Miss Ming, wait for me to bring the bridal sedan chair to welcome you. After speaking, he dared not take his eyes off me, intently observing my expression. Okay, I replied. Hearing my response, his chest heaved powerfully, although on the surface he still tried to maintain a calm appearance. It was not until I reached the turning point and stole a glance back that I saw him jumping high in the air, clenching his fist and punching the void, stomping his feet in excitement, his eyes smiling brightly. That elegant outfit now seemed to hinder his movements. Sebastian and Frederick were truly worlds apart. Frederick was outwardly dignified but had a deep and scheming mind, accustomed to acting. Sebastian was generous, clear in his love and hate, and never hid his thoughts. I vaguely guessed that he perhaps liked me, but I did not expect him to value that affection so much. It was so deep that after failing to propose in the previous life, he would rather be lonely for a lifetime than marry anyone else. In my mind, his eyes when I nodded in agreement appeared again, sparkling like the stars. I wondered if those eyes had ever shed tears in the previous life because I married Frederick. In the courtyard, the wind was still, but the crabapple branch in the corner trembled ceaselessly. I originally thought the banquet was just an excuse, perhaps Princess Beatrice wanted to use this occasion to meet me privately to evaluate me. Unexpectedly, the maid really led me to a grand flower appreciation banquet. As soon as I arrived, Princess Beatrice appeared in magnificent palace attire. Her royal majesty was imposing, making those below dare not look straight at her. I bowed my head with the other noble ladies to pay respects. Embroidered shoes studded with East Sea pearls glided past my eyes. A moment later, a majestic voice rang out from above. No need for formalities, everyone sit down. The maid led me to the first seat on the right, directly below Princess Beatrice. That noble seat could not be said to be without intention, proving the special regard reserved for me. The flower appreciation banquet proceeded peacefully, and the guests gradually bid farewell. When almost everyone had left, a close maid came to whisper to me, Miss Ming, the Princess Royal invites you. I followed the maid to a water pavilion by the lake, where 2 bamboo fishing rods had already been set up. Usually when I am free, I often come here to cast a line. Would you like to entertain yourself together? Princess Beatrice appeared behind me. When I was about to bow, a hand gently supported my wrist. You are Bastian's fiancée. Just follow him and call me aunt. We are all one family, no need to stand on ceremony. Bastian, it turned out, was Sebastian's childhood nickname. I still maintained etiquette and replied, Your Highness is too gracious, but the marriage has not yet taken place. Etiquette cannot be abandoned. The person in front of me laughed softly, her tone relaxed. I have long heard that the Ming Chancellor's estate has 2 precious gems, one active and one quiet. One child has been mischievous since childhood, fighting so much no one can manage her, and the other is disciplined and orderly as if she swallowed the entire book of sages into her belly. Meeting you today, it is indeed true. Sit down, there are no outsiders here, and this princess does not want to keep these cumbersome rules either. I saw Princess Beatrice reclining on the chaise lounge, crossing her legs, her sleeves rolled up high to her elbows, her posture casual and extremely unrestrained. I originally thought the widowed princess who had kept her chastity for many years would carry a sorrowful aura, fading like the evening sun, but the person before my eyes exuded a heroic spirit from head to toe, without a trace of worldly sorrow. I sat down next to her but dared not lean back casually. My back remained straight and dignified. The space was quiet, no one spoke, only the sound of fish occasionally splashing in the water to catch movement in the lotus pond was heard. Time passed, and my waist began to ache from holding the sitting posture for too long. All right, that is enough for today. Not a single fish was caught. Princess Beatrice stood up abruptly, dusted off her hands, and then placed her hands on her hips with great refreshment. I hurriedly stood up. This common girl bids farewell. Bella, can I call you that? If your highness is willing to call me so intimately, it is this common girl's blessing. Her eyes softened as she looked at me. Bastian has frequented my estate since he was small. It can be said I watched him grow up. I can see that he truly likes you very much. I say these words not to use the title of an elder to force you. I just want to tell you that he is a not bad man. If you are willing, perhaps you can try once to entrust your true feelings to him. I was slightly stunned. I knew Princess Beatrice kept me back because she definitely had private words to instruct. Perhaps she wanted to teach me the duties of a daughter-in-law, or maybe it was just simple chit-chat. But I did not expect her to utter such heartfelt words. She said she did not want to force me, her meaning clearly respecting my feelings. She was the dignified Princess Royal, a golden branch and jade leaf, yet in front of me she referred to herself as I, instead of using the powerful, this princess. At this moment she was not the high and mighty Princess Royal, but simply an elder who loved Sebastian. She did not use power to impose but used goodwill to advise. She told me to try once. Leaving the princess estate, behind my carriage, another carriage followed as an escort. An elderly matron respectfully stepped forward and said, "These are gifts bestowed by Her Highness. Miss Ming, please do not refuse." After settling into the carriage, I took out the purple sandalwood box hidden in my sleeve to admire it, whispering to myself, I seem to have seen it before. That night, I sank into a strange dream, turning back the flow of time to the second day, after the grand wedding of my previous life. After standing to serve according to the rules and returning to my room with aching legs, Luna reported that she had finished arranging the list of dowry gifts and invited me to the storehouse to check. Checking each item, I discovered a strange wooden box. The giver was unclear, and there was no accompanying invitation card. Luna curiously opened the lid, revealing a bright, clear jade bracelet inside. She scratched her head in confusion, wondering if the servants had been negligent and forgotten to record the sender's name, but in the end, no clue could be traced. Since there was no identity, it could not be entered into the storehouse ledger. I then brought the box back to my courtyard and stored it deep at the bottom of my dressing cabinet. Then time passed, and I also forgot its existence. The scene in the dream shifted again, taking me back to the day before I passed away. At that time, although I was old, my body was still healthy and my mind clear. Sitting and basking in the sun on the porch, I suddenly heard a maid scream in panic from the room. Luna, whose hair was now touched with frost, hurriedly went in to check. A moment later she led out a little maid who was trembling like a leaf. Reporting to Madam, this girl was clumsy and accidentally broke a bracelet while cleaning. My heart skipped a beat, and a nameless panic rose within me. Looking at the pieces of the jade bracelet shattered on the tray, I was stunned, having forgotten since when I possessed such a piece of jewelry. The little maid's face was drained of blood. She knelt on the ground, kowtowing repeatedly to beg for her life. I looked and could not bear it, so I waved my hand. Stand up. It is just a worldly possession, not a big deal, just be more careful in the future. Strangely enough, the very next day I passed away, leaving peacefully, without illness or pain, as if simply sinking into a long sleep. I woke up from the dream with a start, sweat soaking the back of my shirt. I clutched my chest, taking deep breaths to calm down. Picking up the purple sandalwood box placed by the pillow, I tremblingly opened it again. Fumbling to the window, I gently pushed the latch. The moonlight flooded into the room, illuminating the bracelet, emitting a warm, soft jade glow. My hands gripped it tightly as if afraid it would vanish. I had only seen this bracelet exactly twice in my life. Once was right after getting married, beginning a life as a daughter-in-law full of humiliation. Once was right before my death, ending the life of a woman with a beautiful face but an unhappy fate. Meeting it again was a matter of the next life. In the room, the candles were lit again. Luna yawned repeatedly, holding a cloak and coming over to drape it over my shoulders. "Miss, why are you up so early? Be careful not to catch a cold." "Luna," I called softly, my voice pensive. "Have you ever owed someone a very great debt of gratitude, so great that you do not know how to repay it?" Luna was somewhat surprised by the strange question but still answered honestly. "Miss also knows that because my family was poor with many children, I had to sell myself into the Chancellor's manor. When I was small, the food in the house was all given to my younger brother, and I often had to go hungry. Fortunately, the neighbor next door had a kind older brother who occasionally secretly slipped me a potato or a cake. Thanks to that, I did not starve to death." She smiled, recalling. "Back then I thought he was truly a living bodhisattva descended to earth. I vowed that when he passed the exams and became an official, I would work like a cow or horse to serve him without needing a single coin of wages. He is very smart and reads books extremely well. It can be said he never forgets what he has seen. Everyone in the village calls him a child prodigy." Listening to her story, memories of the previous life suddenly rushed back. One day after I had married into the Chen family, I accidentally caught Luna hiding in a secluded corner crying bitterly. After I questioned her persistently, she choked up and said that her benefactor had failed the exams and hanged himself in resentment. Later, when she reached the age to marry, I asked if she wanted to redeem herself and leave the manor to find her own happiness. She just shook her head vigorously, willing to stay by my side for a lifetime in that cold Chen household. Could that ill-fated benefactor be the neighbor brother in her story? But if that person was truly as talented as she said, with a photographic memory, then even if he was not the top scorer, his name should at least be on the list of successful doctoral candidates. Moreover, at that time he was still young and full of life. Why would he act so extremely as to seek death, just because he did not pass the provincial exam? I muttered, my heart full of suspicion. What is your benefactor's name? His name is Arthur Zheng. I heard that his family had to pay 5 copper coins to invite the teacher to give him that name. Looking at her unconcealed admiration, I smiled softly. Do you want to have a name of your own? She lowered her head, looking a bit self-conscious. I come from a humble background and low status, how dare I dream of having a name? At home, my parents just called me Puppy so I would be easy to raise. Now being able to serve by your side is already a blessing like a dream. I held her rough hand, secretly making a determination in my heart. If the death of that person named Arthur truly had a hidden grievance, then in this life I would definitely do my best to preserve his life. The next day, precisely at noon, a maid ran in breathlessly to report, her face beaming. The eldest miss of the Duke's estate sent someone to pass a message, reporting that the horoscopes of the miss and the prince heir are extremely compatible. It is a divination of great fortune and profit. I heard this horoscope was calculated by Master Orion himself. The maid respectfully presented a small brocade box, saying, "This is the commentary note. Master Orion specially instructed that only the miss may see it." I nervously opened the paper. On the high-quality Sean paper, the ink strokes danced like dragons and phoenixes, writing just 4 sentences. Heaven, ordained good match without error, lacking one makes it hard to be complete. Past regrets are now continued, holding hands to share glory in this life. Fate ordained by heaven is not wrong. How can it be complete if one person is missing? Regrets of the previous life are now reconnected. In this life, we hold hands to enjoy glory. My heart beat violently, and I immediately folded the paper in a hurry. All right, go quickly and report back to Mother. Let her decide everything regarding the marriage. Clutching the paper in my hand until it crumpled, I walked hurriedly back to my room and bolted the door tight. Luna was anxiously blocked outside. "Miss, are you all right?" "I am fine. You just go do your work." Waiting for the sound of Luna's footsteps to fade away, I tremblingly opened the paper again, reading those 4 lines over and over, every word etching itself deep into my heart. Finally, I brought it to the candle flame, lit it, and dropped it into the incense burner, watching it turn to ash. Although I often followed Mother up the mountain to pray to Buddha, before being reborn, I had never truly believed in ghosts and gods. Even though I lived again, I kept it tight-lipped, not daring to utter a half-word to anyone. It was just that I did not expect that mysterious and profound Master Orion to see through the heavenly mechanism and know clearly what happened to me. Recalling the previous life, Frederick had also happily said, "My horoscope and hers match very well." The commentary of the fortune teller back then also stated it was a match made in heaven, but the ending between him and me was an evil fate. Thus, there were only 2 possibilities. One was that the fortune teller was just a street swindler, giving random predictions to everyone to earn money. 2 was that Frederick himself had played tricks to deceive me from the very beginning. Now my heart was extremely agitated, and I did not want to pursue the truth of years ago anymore. I just wanted to dump all the mistakes and grievances onto Frederick's head to vent my anger. He had done too many evil deeds. Bearing a few more sins would not be unjust for him. Usually, I always behaved with decorum and dignity, but in this moment of confusion, I impatiently wanted to see Sebastian. Knock, knock. A knock on the door rang out, interrupting my train of thought. "Come in." Luna walked in carrying 2 red lacquered and gold, gilded food boxes, a sweet fragrance wafting out. "Miss, people from the 100 Flavors Pavilion just brought this. They said a young master named Lee ordered it. These are all the newest dishes just released yesterday. I guess the prince heir must have sent them. But it is strange, how does he know your taste so well?" While deftly arranging the food on the table, she muttered in wonder. I had always been reserved, never going to restaurants personally, and when sending people to buy food, I was discreet and did not mention my identity. Yet the prince heir knew in detail my habit of definitely having to taste new dishes. In no time, the table was full of exquisite food. Looking at the table of food, I could not help but laugh out loud. Picking up a piece and putting it in my mouth, the delicious taste spread on the tip of my tongue, and the tangled thoughts and worries from before slowly settled down along with it. The gatekeeper presented a letter without a name. Just opening it and glancing at the handwriting familiar to the point of causing goosebumps, I knew it was written by Frederick. "Bella, meet me tomorrow morning at the old place," Luna asked curiously. "Miss, who sent the letter?" "Frederick, he asked me to meet him outside." Luna's eyes widened in shock. "What? Does he still have the face to send a letter?" She looked at me hesitantly, her face full of worry. "Miss, you do not intend to—" I gently tapped her forehead lovingly. "Does your miss look like the type of girl who drags things out indecisively? Take it and burn it for me immediately. I have no interest in whatever explanations Frederick wants to give. Ultimately, it is nothing more than seeing that proposing to Scarlet is hopeless, so he turns back to plot against me, or perhaps he has vaguely guessed that I am also reborn." Frederick was not stupid, seeing my attitude change so drastically, rejecting him without any regard like that. Naturally he would think of that possibility. But I would never be foolish enough to go meet him. I had read several folk storybooks belonging to Scarlet. In them, women often secretly met their unfaithful lovers out of soft-heartedness or helplessness, resulting in being set up by villains for their husbands to catch them in the act, causing a rift in marital affection. Although the ending in the stories was still happy, those misunderstandings were truly unnecessary. I begged to be excused from that kind of melodramatic script. Frederick had no evidence, and he himself was a person harboring the secret of rebirth, so he absolutely dared not speak recklessly. After all, in this matter, we were like grasshoppers on the same rope. If he went crazy and jumped around, the person falling into the abyss would not be just me alone. Days passed, and if there was no necessary business, I usually closed the door and stayed in my room, rarely stepping out of the manor. Frederick persisted in sending a few more letters. I only glanced at them, saw there was no content worth worrying about, and ordered servants to throw them all into the fire to turn into ash. The wedding day was set for 2 months later. It sounded a bit rushed, but the imperial astronomer dared to judge that 2 months later was the best auspicious day of the year. Missing it would mean waiting a very long time. Sebastian immediately sent a letter, solicitously asking for my opinion. He messaged that if I did not want to rush like that, he was ready to have someone choose another date, without needing to worry about good or bad omens. "As long as you are happy, any day is a good day for me." Looking at every word and sentence on the paper, the ink strokes were sincere, although they were just simple words, and the sentences were not polished and flowery like a scholar's. Reading them felt warmer than brocade and silk. "Luna, grind the ink." Luna was stunned, looking at me in astonishment. "Miss, you want a reply to the prince heir. You have always maintained decorum and never corresponded privately with men outside the family. Why this time?" In Luna's eyes, ritual and dogma were etched into my bones. Remembering the previous life, even though I loved Frederick to the bone, I never crossed the line to reply with half a word to him, let alone give him any personal item. At most, I only ordered someone to pass on a verbal message. I shook my head and smiled to reassure her. "It is not the same. He and I have a marriage contract. It is legitimate and proper. Writing a letter is not an impolite act." I put down the brush, writing just 2 short lines. "Getting married is a matter of 2 people. I do not want Sebastian to always have to yield and accommodate my wishes unconditionally. When I knew that person cherished me like a pearl or jade, I should not casually waste that sincere feeling." An hour later, Jack, who took the letter, returned, careful holding a handful of golden melon seeds in both hands, walking on tiptoe, not daring to shake even slightly. Reporting to Miss, this lowly servant had just arrived at the Duke's gate when I was invited inside. Not long after, the prince heir ran over. Upon hearing that the Miss personally wrote a letter, he was overjoyed. After reading the letter, he was in high spirits and personally rewarded this lowly servant with this handful of golden melon seeds, saying to share the joy. He said, "Take this back and share it with the older sisters in the courtyard so everyone can enjoy a bit of happy energy." I smiled. "If he rewarded you, then it is your blessing. Luna, take this and share it with everyone. For his portion, give a little more." Hearing this, Jack was extremely excited, his hands and feet clumsy. I continued, I remember that in your house, your mother is seriously ill and bedridden all year round, and your father is old and weak, unable to do heavy work. Take this money back to take care of medicine and look after your parents well." He hurriedly knelt down, kowtowing, tears and mucus streaming down his face. "Thank you, miss. This kindness of yours in this life this lowly servant begs to work like a cow or horse to repay." This Jack was a sensible person, understanding that receiving such a large fortune could not be swallowed alone, and moreover, he was a filial son, shouldering the entire family alone without a word of complaint. I had heard Luna tell the story of his family circumstances in the previous life. Back then, as soon as I knew, I told Luna to arrange light work for him and found excuses to reward him with some silver scraps. I heard that after getting the money, he ran straight to the pharmacy that very day to buy medicine for his mother. Time flew by and only 5 days were left until the grand wedding ceremony. Mother said she wanted to take me to the temple to request a peace amulet. I set off for the temple with Mother and Scarlet. While Mother went into the main hall to pray for the amulet, Scarlet and I strolled to the backyard and saw an ancient tree covered with red silk strips praying for fate. Scarlet tilted her head, her eyes sparkling as she asked me, "Sister, do you want to write a wish? Rumor has it that it is very efficacious. You write one too, and we will hang them together." I carefully wrote my wish on the silk strip. Scarlet, with her agile movements, climbed up the fork of the tree in just a few steps. Tr 2 silk strips to the highest place to catch the wind. Just then, a frantic shout suddenly rang out, "Stop, thief. Someone stole my purse. Ladies, please block him." I frowned, sensing something ominous. Before I could compose myself to call Scarlet back, her righteous nature had already flared up. Her figure vanished in a flash, chasing the thief into a desolate alley, luring the tiger away from the mountain. Looking at the person who just stepped out to block the path in front of me, a chill rose between my brows. "Was this your tactic?" Frederick clasped his hands in greeting, his face feigning helplessness. "Miss Ming, please forgive me, I truly had no other way, I was forced to use this poor strategy." I did not reply, stepping back to keep a safe distance of 2 meters from him. "Can I borrow a moment to speak privately?" he implored. I gave a faint smile, my eyes sharp and cold. "Young Master Chen is a scholar, surely you have not forgotten the principle that a gentleman does not stand under a crumbling wall. This place is crowded with people coming and going. Broad daylight is the most suitable place to talk. What need is there to be secretive? If it were just the two of us in a deserted place, he would only need to shout a few sentences, and even jumping into the Yellow River would not wash my reputation clean. He would not even need to do anything, just opening his mouth to fabricate lies would be enough to ruin my name and reputation before the wedding day." Seeing my determination, he began to get impatient and tried to lunge closer. "Bella, listen to me." Before he could touch the hem of my dress, the back of his collar was grabbed tightly by a large hand, lifting him up like a chicken. The person behind him was a whole head taller, his aura imposing. Looking at Frederick's awkward state, his feet not touching the ground, I had to slightly lower my head to hide a mocking smile. A low, powerful voice rang in his ear. "Does young Master Chen have something he wants to confide to this prince's future wife? You do not mind if I listen to, do you?" Frederick struggled to pull back his collar, his face purple with embarrassment but still trying to appear tough. "Prince Heir, please have some self-respect. This is a private matter between me and Bella." Hearing him use the intimate name Bella, my eyebrows furrowed slightly. He did it on purpose, intentionally provoking Sebastian. I looked anxiously at Sebastian, afraid that with his youthful vigor, he would be provoked into hitting someone, falling into Frederick's trap. Sure enough, Sebastian's hands had clenched into fists, veins popping out. "Prince Heir," I hurriedly spoke up to stop him. Hearing my voice, he paused, exhaling a murky breath to restrain himself. He crossed his arms over his chest, looking down at Frederick from above with contemptuous eyes, like looking at an ant. For young Master Chen to open his mouth and call the boudoir name of a noble lady so smoothly, I do not know from which book of sages and strict family rules of the Chen estate he learned that. Another day, I must personally visit Minister Chen to ask how profound the Chen family's education is to have taught such a polite son. Frederick's face instantly turned from red to pale green. He glanced at me with deep meaning, then dared not stay any longer, clasped his hands in a perfunctory greeting, and hurriedly scurried away like a rat. Waiting for his figure to disappear completely, Sebastian turned to me, his eyes worried. "Are you all right?" I was afraid a disastrous misunderstanding would arise like in those storybooks. I decided to speak frankly. He intentionally called me intimately like that, aiming to provoke you, inciting you to hit him in a crowded place. If this matter spreads, your reputation will be damaged. Sebastian nodded, his voice deepening. I know you do not like him anymore. I was rendered speechless by this knave statement, caught between laughter and tears. I did not know whether to praise his keen mind for seeing through people's hearts or to feel sorry because he was too humble, always placing himself in a weaker position in this relationship, as if he understood what I was thinking. Amidst the noisy chatter of the ancient temple, I heard his voice ring out clear and sincere. Miss Ming, you do not need to pity me. As long as you are willing to nod and marry me, for this Sebastian, that is already the greatest grace heaven has bestowed upon this life. Miss, people from the palace have arrived again. Bringing rewards again. It was no wonder I exclaimed like that. Truly, Sebastian was too favored by the imperial family. His father was a powerful duke, his aunt was the current princess royal, and his biological uncle was the reigning emperor. The princes and princesses in the palace were all his close brothers and sisters, and his nature was generous and amiable, with wide connections. Therefore, ever since the marriage was decided, rewards from the palace had flowed in continuously like water. One wave had not ceased before another arrived. Previously, I had only heard rumors that Sebastian was the darling of the imperial family, and I only regarded it as gossip over tea and wine. Only now did I truly understand those words, darling child. It was not an exaggeration at all, it was all truth. Indeed, before even becoming a bride, I had already enjoyed his blessings too much. It is not a reward. This time the Imperial Attire Department has come to deliver the wedding dress. Outside the door, another maid ran in breathlessly, her face radiant. Miss, people from the Duke's estate have also arrived, accompanying the delivery of the wedding dress. That was right, the day after tomorrow was the grand wedding day. Since Sebastian had the status of a noble prince heir, it was natural for the phoenix wedding robe to be sewn personally by skilled artisans in the palace. 2 large chests containing the wedding attire were respectfully carried into my courtyard. My gaze swept over the crimson wedding dress that I had sewn myself, stitch by stitch. Sitting on the table, I could not help but laugh and shake my head. Compared to those flashy things, my intentions seemed so small. Once the palace had bestowed the wedding dress, according to ritual, I had to wear this ceremonial robe on the day of the grand wedding. I gently lifted the red silk covering the tray brought by the Duke's estate. Revealed before my eyes was a magnificent crimson wedding gown. The collar on both sides was meticulously bordered with round, shiny East Sea pearls. The body of the dress was embroidered with a pair of phoenixes singing in harmony using shimmering gold thread, vivid and lifelike. Both the brocade material and the stitching were of supreme quality. Since I had sewn my own wedding dress, I had some understanding, so with just one glance, I recognized it immediately. An embroidery masterpiece of this exquisite level was absolutely not something that could be completed in a day or two, or even a year or two. My gaze just paused at the bridal veil next to it. This item truly made it hard for anyone to utter a compliment. Although the crimson color matched the wedding dress perfectly, on the surface of the veil were embroidered 4 characters. Dragon and phoenix bringing prosperity. Full of auspicious meaning. Although the stitches were thick and even, the embroidery lines were clearly somewhat crude and clumsy, completely not in the same class as that exquisite wedding gown. Why would the noble Duke's estate be so negligent as to send this? Could it be that the servants arranging the wedding dowry had made a disastrous mistake? I turned to ask the maid, did the person from the Duke's estate leave any message when delivering the items? Yes. That person asked if the bracelet given to the miss last time fit or not. Bracelet? Luna's face was full of doubt. It was truly strange. Why ask such a casual question? Before this servant could reply, that person hurriedly left. My fingers lightly traced the rough embroidery lines, and suddenly my heart understood. A warm stream flowed through my heart, and the corners of my lips unconsciously curled into a smile. Recalling the day of parting at the princess's estate, Sebastian had once hesitantly said, Miss Ming, in a few days I will give you a special gift. I hope when you see it, you will not laugh at my clumsiness. I waited and waited, looking forward to it but seeing no result. I even thought he was busy with the wedding matters and had forgotten. Strangely enough, at that time, a slight feeling of disappointment and indescribable loss crept into my heart. Now, looking at this lackluster bridal veil, the image of a noble prince heir appeared in my mind, holding a needle and thread, clumsily bowing his head to stitch each stitch under the lamp. Perhaps in the first days of practicing, all 10 of his fingertips were densely covered with needle pricks oozing blood. A man accustomed to wielding a sword and brush, who had never touched needlework, to be able to embroider 4 square characters like this, had truly poured out all his heart and soul. On the day of the grand wedding, the sound of firecrackers echoed through the sky. Just before the auspicious hour to leave the house, I asked Luna to help me put that veil on my head. She grumbled while combing my hair, "This veil has crude embroidery lines. It is not beautiful at all. Why do you insist on choosing it, miss? Clearly there is another one much more beautiful." Although her mouth mumbled complaints, her hands still carefully covered me with the veil very neatly. I had no older brother, according to custom. It should be a male relative who carries the bride to the sedan chair. But Scarlett resolutely brushed aside all gossip, insisting on carrying me out the door. Although Scarlett was a bit taller than me, today I was wearing a heavy ceremonial robe and a pure gold phoenix crown. My body was not light at all. Yet her back remained straight, her steps steady, not staggering even a bit. I leaned on her shoulder, hearing her voice, usually heroic, now carrying a slight tremor of choke. "Sister, I really do not understand why you are willing to marry that prince heir. Your judgment of people has never been good from before until now. The previous one was hypocritical, this one was an arrogant scoundrel. But as long as it is your decision, I will." She took a deep breath. "At worst, if he dares to behave badly in the future, you just divorce and come back here. You will forever be my sister, forever the noble eldest miss of the Chancellor's estate." I laughed, tears welling up. Even at this moment of separation, she did not forget to tease me with a few sentences. I wrapped my arms tightly around Scarlett's neck. "Silly Scarlett. Take good care of our parents for me, and remember to take care of yourself too. No need to worry about me. Your sister is gentle but not stupid. If days are difficult, I will naturally know how to find a way to live for myself. In my previous life, except for the emotional hurts at the beginning, my later life in the Chen family could still be considered leisurely and free. Who told my father to be the current prime minister, and my mother to be a heroine from a family of generals? Since childhood, mother had taught me, "Bella, you can be a person who keeps the rules and understands things, but absolutely do not be a weak and cowardly person. In all matters in life, one's own peace is the most important." I had always etched that teaching into my bones and heart. Therefore, my true self was nothing like the shell of gentle virtue that the world mistakenly thought. I only preached principles and kept rules with those who knew how to behave. Therefore, in the previous life, whether it was the harsh mother-in-law, the ungrateful husband, or the 2 groups of concubines and illegitimate children, no one could overturn the sky in front of me. As for my father-in-law, he was just a man with a mind as straight as an arrow. Apart from court affairs, his heart could not contain anything else. Scarlett carried me onto the bridal sedan chair. Along the way, the sound of gongs and drums resounded through a corner of the sky. By the time I entered the bridal chamber, my neck was aching. This set of gold and jade head ornaments was truly excessively heavy. As soon as I stepped in, Sebastian hurriedly followed into the room. "Why are you here? At this hour? Shouldn't you be in the front hall receiving guests? Usually I make friends and brothers just to wait for a day so they can help me block the wine." He gently lifted the veil, the joy in the depths of his eyes completely unconcealed. Sebastian ordered people to arrange everything properly and then dismissed all the servants. Before I could even let out a sigh of relief, he hurriedly pulled me to sit down by the bed. "You are tired today, aren't you?" As he spoke, he carefully removed each jade hairpin from my head. My hair fell down like a stream, and my scalp suddenly felt several degrees lighter. Although I had lived through 2 lives, this intimate moment still made my cheeks burn hot. He helped me wipe off the makeup, then ordered people to set a table of food, all dishes I loved. Drinking with that crowd cannot compare to eating with my wife. Mentioning the word wife, he also acted a bit unnatural, the tips of his ears secretly turning red. Today Sebastian was handsome to an excessive degree. He was already born with an outstanding appearance. Now wearing crimson wedding robes, he looked even more handsome and dashing. He frantically picked food for me, afraid that if I missed a bite, I would be hungry. I chewed slowly, hearing him sigh softly. "So good." I looked up, seeing him holding chopsticks in one hand, resting his chin on the other, just staring at me infatuatedly. "Good where?" Good in that you married me. He smiled naively. Since childhood, I have felt luckier than others. Now it seems the Bodhisattva must have specially looked after me. Master Orion was not wrong. If you are destined, even if you go in a circle, you will eventually meet again. My movements paused slightly, and I feigned nonchalance as I asked, "Oh, did you once converse with Master Orion?" He nodded. That jade bracelet was actually blessed by Master Orion at my request. Master Orion comes from the Immortals, Gathering Valley, and appeared for the sake of the Great Yan's national destiny. He is a high expert with ability. I clearly stated my feelings to him, and he said those words. He said that although there are obstacles between us, we will definitely have a perfect ending. At that time I did not dare to believe it yet, my ears were ringing, my mind only echoing the words he just said. I asked him, "Can I meet Master Orion?" I have heard of the fame of Master Orion for a long time but never had the chance to meet him. I feel regretful in my heart. Sebastian immediately agreed. That is easy. Tomorrow after serving tea to our parents, I will take you into the palace to give thanks. Then on the way stop by the star-gazing tower. Master Orion is usually there. The next day, Sebastian and I had just set foot in the star-gazing tower when a young Taoist boy clasped his hands respectfully and stepped out to welcome us. Greetings to the princess consort. Master Orion has prepared hot tea, inviting you to follow this young Taoist upstairs. Sebastian clapped his hands in delight. Master Orion is indeed a high expert with divine calculation, he even knew this beforehand. The Taoist boy raised his hand to stop him. Prince Heir, please stop. Master Orion instructed to meet only the princess consort alone. Would the prince please wait on the lower floor? He laughed awkwardly, scratching his head. Then you take the princess consort up. I turned to look at him. He seemed not to mind the rudeness at all, waving his hand and laughing broadly. You go, do not be afraid. Master Orion is very approachable, a kind old man, not scary at all. Really, speaking like that right in front of Master Orion's direct disciple. He was truly too casual. The star-gazing tower was 9 stories high, majestic and towering. Following the Taoist boy, I stepped up the last step of the 9th floor. Princess consort, please enter. Master Orion is waiting inside. The 9th floor was decorated simply and purely. Master Orion was sitting cross-legged on a cushion. Seeing me enter, he poured a cup of hot tea and pushed it gently across the low table. Set. Although his appearance was old, his spirit was still vigorous, his hair white as snow, his long beard fluttering. Wearing a pure white robe, he indeed had the demeanor of a transcendent sage. I sat down on the cushion opposite, lifting the cup to take a sip of tea. He also lifted his cup, but no steam was seen rising, only the smell of strong wine. He laughed heartily. I have never liked drinking tea since childhood. I have only been fond of good wine. Saying so, he threw his head back and drank it all in one gulp. Then he put the cup down, looking at me with deep eyes. I know your heart is full of doubts. Ask. I took a deep breath, my voice solemn. Sir, I want to know why I have been given a second life. Because this is the path you two were originally supposed to walk. In the previous life, you took the wrong path, and since your fates are linked, once you were wrong, he naturally would also be wrong. That path did not belong to him. You mean I was reborn because the Prince Heir's fate changed? Did Master Orion defy the heavens to change fate for his sake? My hands hidden under my wide sleeves unconsciously clenched tight. I asked suspiciously, does that mean the Prince Heir is not an ordinary person, and his existence will affect the fate of many things? Is that correct? Is this the reason you came out of seclusion to Great Yan? Master Orion nodded in approval. The princess consort is indeed a wise person. My pupils constricted, my heart beating violently as if it wanted to burst in my chest. If I had come back, it meant the past could not be salvaged. Can I know what exactly happened in the previous life, and why Frederick was also reborn? Master Orion shook his head, his face solemn. That is a heavenly secret that cannot be revealed. I can only say this much. If I utter another word, I fear this old life cannot be kept. As for young Master Chen, he returned to bear the karma. His voice carried a slight teasing tone, but I knew that to achieve this level, he must have paid a very great price. I tried to suppress my emotions to ask one last question. I only ask one more thing. In the previous life, to what age did Sebastian live? Master Orion sighed softly, his eyes looking into the distance. Rosy cheeks turned to white bones, returning to dust. How can this body bear the scene of walking alone? He waved his sleeve. Go back. For you two to be able to walk together to this life was truly not easy. Princess consort, remember, fate has its own path, no need to fear, just keep going. In the end, the situation will unexpectedly turn around, finding a shore of fulfillment. When walking downstairs, my limbs had become cold at some point. It was not until I turned the corner of the second-floor stairs that I saw Sebastian's figure still patiently waiting below. As soon as he saw me, his face immediately lit up, blooming into a radiant smile like the sun. He took 3 steps and 2, hurriedly running up to support me. Are you tired? This star-gazing tower is too high, how about I carry you down? I held tightly onto his large hand, the warmth from his hand spread back, warming my trembling heart. Let's go home. Getting into the carriage, I watched Sebastian carefully massaging my calves, his manner devoted, cherishing me like a treasure. I asked softly, Sebastian, if one day I unfortunately go first, what will you do? His movements paused for a split second, then very quickly recovered to normal. His voice was light, as if talking about the wind and clouds. Then I will die with you. However many days you live, I will live exactly 1 day longer than you. Using that 1 day to exterminate cleanly those who have hurt you, arrange your funeral peacefully, then buy a coffin a bit larger, enough to hold both of us. After finishing all those things, I will go find you. On the way down to the Yellow Springs, remember to walk a bit slower, wait for me so we can go together. After speaking, seeing me silent and unresponsive, he panicked, hurriedly kneeling before me. Sorry, did I scare you? I just slipped and spoke nonsense, do not hold it against me. I do not kill people. In all my years, I have not even dared to kill a chicken. How could I kill a person? I lunged forward, wrapping my arms tightly around his neck. I am not angry, I just feel heart-attached for you. Why do you place me above your own life? Sebastian, exactly when did you set your eyes on me? I did not doubt his words at all, because in the previous life he had truly done so. When my life faded and I had enjoyed my full years, he committed suicide just to catch up with me on the road to the Yellow Springs. But he was so foolish, he did not know whether after death there would still be a soul or not, whether he could catch up with me or not. And even if he caught up, perhaps by then I would have drunk Lady Meng's soup and known nothing about him anymore. Realizing my emotions were unstable, Sebastian gently patted my back, a steady rhythm, gentle just like when mother used to lull me to sleep when I was small. The first time I met you was when we were small, at the banquet of the Marquise of Changping. At that time, accidentally picked up a scent pouch, not knowing which young lady had dropped it. Frederick at that time said he knew who the owner of the scent pouch was. I believed his words and gave the scent pouch to him to return. But in my heart I still felt uneasy, so I secretly followed behind. Finally, I saw you and him standing and talking. His voice sounded a bit upset and regretful. I knew he had deceived me. Over the years, I have always regretted it. If back then I had not naively believed his words so easily, would you and he still have had the chance to know each other? The person legitimately knowing you, would it have been me? Ultimately, it was because I was too stupid. So it was like that. It turned out that from our youth, Frederick had already begun to use tricks to deceive me. The person who picked up the scent pouch, the person I should have been grateful to and known, should have been Sebastian. He blamed himself for being stupid. But how could I blame him? I considered myself smart, with a pure heart and orchid nature. Yet wasn't I also deceived by Frederick's hypocritical appearance of gentleness and virtue for a whole lifetime? A feeling of lamentation suddenly rose in my heart. Fortunately, this life was still long. That night, taking advantage of the time Luna was not in the room, I lowered my voice and said to Sebastian, I want to ask you to secretly investigate the background of a person for me. His name is Arthur, living in Sophora Village, Qingxi County. He is a scholar. I want to know in detail about his character, conduct, and true family circumstances. Sebastian did not question the reason at all, immediately nodding. Okay, just leave it to me. He answered without any hesitation, extremely decisive. I asked, aren't you going to ask what I intend to do? If you want to say, you will naturally say it. If you do not say, there must be your own reason. He held my hand tightly, his eyes serious and sincere. What do you want me to do? Just order me directly. Do not ever say the word ask. Hearing that, I will feel very uncomfortable. I hope you can command me naturally, without carrying any burden in your heart. I glared at him, pretending to be angry. I also do not like you always lowering yourself into the mud in front of me like that. You are a dignified prince heir. You should fix this habit, okay? He could not help but laugh out loud. As my dear feeling sorry for me. I am very happy, but I fear it cannot be fixed. I like to cherish my love like this, willingly and gladly enduring it. To me, my wife is the greatest, heaven and earth. I was momentarily choked for words, not knowing how to reply. I felt heart-touch for him, while he smugly immersed himself in the joy of serving me. His eyes shifted slightly, a smile rising in their depths. But if my love cherishes me, then tonight I immediately reached out to cover his mouth tightly. Do not talk nonsense. Suddenly, my palm felt a wet, hot sensation brush past. I was both ashamed and angry, but the carriage was still running on the street, so I could only lower my voice to warn him. Sebastian. He held his chest, laughing convulsively, unable to close his mouth, then lunged forward to lift my face and kiss me repeatedly. My dear, oh my dear, why do you make people love you to the point of no escape like this? On the day of returning to my maternal home, my father specially asked for leave for the afternoon. As soon as mother saw me step in the door, tears shone in her eyes. Scarlett took advantage of the moment no one was paying attention to pull me aside, whispering, "Sister, are you okay? How does he treat you? Does he bully or make things difficult for you? Don't you see? Just now getting off carriage, he was the one supporting me." Scarlett pouted, her face full of doubt. Who knows, maybe he is just acting for us to see. Knowing the person, knowing the face, but not knowing the heart. She observed me carefully from head to toe before breathing a sigh of relief. But your complexion looks rosy. Indeed, you do not look like someone suffering. It seems you are living very well, on the contrary. I turned to look at Sebastian, seeing him seemingly trying to stiffen himself, appearing mature and dignified. In front of my father, the strict father-in-law, he calculated even his steps carefully, not daring to be rude. One had to know that even in front of His Majesty, he always maintained a teasing manner, rarely keeping the etiquette of a subject. When it came time to eat, Sebastian seemed to have removed his disguise. He had not eaten a single bite of rice himself, only busy picking vegetables and serving meat to me, so solicitous and thoughtful that the other three people stared blankly, forgetting to move the chopsticks and bowls in their hands. I was also somewhat embarrassed and blushed, while he remained completely unaware, looking up to ask a naive question. Why isn't everyone eating? Too natural, as if this was common sense in life. My mother's eyes lit up, secretly winking at me with satisfaction. I knew it, mother liked this type of man who worshipped his wife the most. My mother originally came from a background of martial generals. In her youth, she wore armor to the battlefield, entering life and death situations, acting extremely heroically, not sticking to trifles. After establishing illustrious military exploits, just reaching marriageable age, she was forced by the court to return to the capital to settle down. At that time, my father had passed the exams and entered to work at the Hanlin Academy. During a palace banquet, mother fell in love as soon as she saw my scholarly and elegant father. His Majesty asked what reward mother wanted for her recent merit. Mother did not hesitate to point straight at father, asking His Majesty clearly before all the civil and military officials, "Is this official betrothed yet? If not, can your Majesty bestow him upon this subject?" According to mother's recounting, father was so terrified at that time that he dropped the wine cup in his hand, shattering it on the ground. Father happened not to have started a family at that time, and inherently had a special fondness for women with spirited and heroic character like mother, so he nodded in agreement to this heaven-sent destiny. At that time, father was the object of both admiration and jealousy in the entire capital. Because my maternal grandfather was the first-rank great general of the current dynasty, with power tilting the world. Mother was the youngest daughter, pampered like a precious gem in the hand since childhood. With father's family background, mother marrying him was truly marrying down. But the fact that mother resolutely chose father amidst a forest of noble young masters and royal aristocrats was truly like a stone thrown into a calm lake, stirring up thousands of fierce waves. So there were those jealous people who mocked father for marrying a female yaksha, bringing home a shrew. Father was inherently gentle by nature, not minding being scolded or criticized, but whenever he heard anyone dare to utter words scolding mother, the elegant scholar who had only known how to hold a brush for decades immediately rolled up his sleeves and rushed up to fight desperately. Mother inherently loved beauty and cherished people with kind hearts. Sebastian just happened to converge both of these qualities. Returning to the Duke's estate, Sebastian's trusted guard respectfully presented a secret letter. He led me back to the courtyard, closed the door, and then handed the letter to me. Inside was everything I wanted to investigate. I opened the letter and skimmed through the general content. The records about Arthur were indeed as Luna had once told. Currently, Arthur had passed the provincial exam, only waiting for the spring examination to become a presented scholar. If he smoothly advanced one more step into the palace examination, he could completely become a doctor, bringing glory to his clan. The letter stated clearly that Arthur was an only child. His parents at home were loving and harmonious, loving their child to the utmost. His character was open and generous. Anyone in the village who mentioned him was full of praise. Attached was a portrait. In the painting was a scholar with handsome, bright features, looking not bad at all. The vague suspicions from before vanished, but replacing them was a chill rising up my spine, surging in my heart, because I suddenly shuddered, remembering a trivial incident from the previous life. At that time, I went out of the city to offer incense, passing by the government office, and accidentally heard the sky-piercing cry of injustice from a woman whole of blood, written letter. That woman was over 40 years old, kneeling prostrate outside the court gate, every word uttered like dripping blood. My son just finished the spring examination when he was murdered by villains. I beg the great Lord to find the murderer, to seek justice for my son's spirit. At that time, a commoner passing by my carriage shook his head and sighed wearily. Another scholar. It is strange these past 2 years, every time the spring examination ends, several scholars die unjustly. At that time, I simply lamented the impermanence of the world and the evil of human hearts. But now, stringing it together, a terrifying idea suddenly flared up in my mind. Perhaps their deaths were absolutely not mere accidents, but behind them was a large-scale examination fraud case, powerful enough to shake the imperial court. The imperial examination was a major national affair, the only path for the court to select talented people. If someone dared to act recklessly, manipulating and cheating in the examination, and until the very moment I died in the previous life it had not yet been exposed to the light, then the power standing behind the intricate connections must be extremely large, deep-rooted, absolutely not something I can casually touch. Sebastian saw my face turn pale and asked worriedly, "What is wrong?" I startled, hurriedly shaking my head. "No, nothing." The paper in my hand was unconsciously clenched until crumpled. "Prince Heir, the Duchess invites you over for a matter." The voice of a servant reporting came from outside. Sebastian looked at me hesitantly. I tried to force a reassuring smile. "You go, I really am fine." Waiting for his figure to disappear behind the door, the smile on my lips vanished. I was momentarily confused, not knowing how to face this situation. In the capital now, my father was the prime minister, leading all civil and military officials, and my husband belonged to the noble imperial lineage. I am afraid that just getting entangled with any side, this small life will be hard to keep. Luna walked in carrying a plate of exquisite dim sum. "Miss, this is the sweet cake the kitchen just sent. I heard it is made according to a secret recipe from the imperial kitchen in the palace. Very delicious." Having said that, she could not help but secretly swallow her saliva. I picked up a piece of cake and stuffed it into her mouth. She chewed hurriedly, her eyes lighting up with delight. Looking at her carefree appearance, remembering the image in the previous life, where she cried until her eyes were red because of her benefactor's death, my heart struggled violently as if two forces were tearing it apart. I spoke slowly. "Luna, I am hiding a shocking matter in my heart. I may have touched a part of the truth, but I dare not investigate further. I am afraid the current peaceful life will be destroyed, but if I stand by and watch with folded arms, my heart will be tormented and uneasy." I thought of Luna, thought of Arthur, who was at the age of wind, flowers, snow, and moon, being hanged unjustly. Thinking of the middle-aged woman who lost her child wailing at the official gate. Thinking of how many innocent scholars had lost their lives in the capital. Luna wiped her hands on a towel, her face suddenly becoming unusually serious. "Miss, you know my nature. I have little education and do not understand those grand and profound principles. I guess what you are hesitant about is choosing physical peace or peace of mind. I dare not speak for others, but if it were me, if my heart forever remained stuck on a matter I could not let go of, then my whole life would be like being trapped in an invisible cage. Living like that, death would be more comfortable." She concluded with a firm sentence. "If you do it, at least looking back later, you can consider that you lived fully. But if not, doing nothing and having no peace, then it is a huge loss." Her words were like a wake-up call striking my mind directly. If Sebastian has a fate he must bear, and Frederick has karma he must pay, then don't I have my own path too? Perhaps this is the true meaning of heaven, giving me a chance to return to this life. Not just to find personal happiness, but to return peace to the world. I still remember vividly how, when I was small, Father used to sternly teach me that the root of the nation lies in the land and society, lies in the common people. Those who serve as officials must put the people's well-being first. Only then will they not be ashamed of their conscience and be worthy of the official robes they wear. I believe Father will never forget those golden words. If this matter unfortunately involves him, as his daughter, I am willing to atone for the crimes with him. As for the imperial family, being the masters of the world, they absolutely cannot treat human lives like grass. Sebastian seemed to have become addicted to his wife. He loved to cling to me, and wherever I went, he followed closely like a shadow. Even when I was studying painting, he insisted on placing a chair to sit next to me. Sometimes pouring tea, sometimes feeding cakes right to my mouth. If I continued to be fattened up like this, I feared I would become completely round. Sebastian did not mind at all, arguing, "You live in this world of the four pleasures. Eating, wearing, dwelling, and traveling. Eating comes first. The sages have taught that even the greatness of heaven and earth is not as great as the matter of eating. Moreover, I see that my dear is currently too thin. Holding you does not feel substantial." The more he spoke, the more enthusiastic he got, even pretending to seriously measure my waist and shaking his head. "Indeed, too thin, must nourish you to have some flesh. Usually you cannot just sit in one place drawing like that. Walking a few steps makes you short of breath. Blood does not circulate well, and it is easy to get sick. How about this, starting tomorrow, I will teach my love a few exercises of the 5 animal frolics, practice a little every day to make muscles and bones flexible, and live to 100 years with me." I originally intended to retort that flailing about like that did not suit the dignified demeanor of a noble lady, but suddenly thinking of Scarlett and Mother, they were both martial arts practitioners, and their bodies were indeed strong, rarely suffering from minor illnesses. The words of refusal were swallowed back down. Learning is learning, in this life. I also want to try to live a bit longer to be his companion. Thinking of Arthur's matter, I decided I must return to my maternal home for a trip to scout for news from Father. I asked him, "I want to go home again tomorrow. Is that a bit improper? A daughter already married running back to her mother's house 2 or 3 times in a few days. Outsiders seeing and talking about it would not be very good. Today we just had the bride's home visit, and tomorrow you want to go back again. I am afraid the world will gossip that the Duke's estate is harsh, forcing the daughter-in-law to run home, or that the Chancellor's estate is abusing its power." Hearing this, Sebastian laughed loudly. "Why not? Go back and stay for 10 days or half a month, even better. I am even looking for an excuse to come and live as a son-in-law in your courtyard." Alright, I was worrying too much. On the way returning to the Chancellor's estate, the spring breeze blew gently, fluttering the carriage curtains. I absent-mindedly looked out at the street. The spring examination was approaching. Scholars from all prefectures were flocking to the capital to take the exam. On the crowded streets, groups of people wearing scholars' robes walked. Everyone's eyes burned with the desire for fame, longing to leave their name in the capital. They came carrying the ambition of the carp, leaping over the dragon gate. But did any of them ever think for a moment about the prospect that they might lose their lives in this foreign land? Suddenly, a voice rang out and caught my ear. "Brother Arthur, I did not expect to meet you here. Where are you staying? Stop the carriage." The carriage immediately stopped by the roadside. I lifted the curtain to look, and Sebastian followed my gaze to observe. A man wearing a simple blue robe, with clear and upright eyes, was gently bowing to the person opposite. "Brother Ziyu, I am staying at the Tongfu Inn, how about you?" The person named Ziyu happily draped an arm around his shoulder, laughing heartily. "Coincidental indeed, I am also staying at the Tongfu Inn. I told you we had a destiny, I told you earlier to travel with me, but you wouldn't listen. Now it's great, heaven and earth have conspired to let me meet you here." The two of them happily left together. Sebastian waved his hand slightly, and his trusted guard immediately approached the carriage door. "As the man in the blue shirt just now, Arthur?" Reporting to the prince heir. "It is him." Sebastian waved his hand to dismiss him, and I also lowered the curtain, hiding my thoughtful eyes. "Let's go back to the Chancellor's estate." Luckily, today I intentionally left Luna at the Duke's estate to help me organize my dowry. I did not expect that by a twist of fate, I would coincidentally meet Arthur right on the street. If Luna were here, with just one glance she could recognize her benefactor immediately. Having learned a bloody lesson from Frederick, I would never easily trust a person, just because of their handsome appearance or elegant aura on the outside. If Arthur was a person with a Buddha's mouth but a snake's heart, one way on the surface and another inside, once he knew the close master-servant relationship between me and Luna, unpredictable incidents could very likely arise. It was not that I did not trust Luna, but she held a trust and admiration for this neighbor brother from her humble days that exceeded normal levels. I was afraid that her innocence would be exploited by others. Arriving at the Chancellor's estate, I sat chatting with Mother for the time it took to drink a cup of tea when Scarlet ran in from outside like a gust of wind. "Sister, why did you come back without ordering someone to notify us in advance?" "I didn't know anything. If I had played too much and came back late, missing you, what would I do?" She grabbed a cup of tea and drank it all in one breath. While fanning herself vigorously with her hand, beads of sweat appeared on her forehead and nose, her face flushed from exercise. Mother looked at her, smiled, and shook her head. "Your sister is not at home, so you run wild everywhere. In this house, only your sister can handle your temper." Scarlet shook her head vigorously, arguing back. "Mother is still talking about me. Grandfather said that when you were young, you were wild and mischievous, 10 times more than me. Like mother tiger, like daughter tiger." After speaking, she turned to me, a gleam flashing in her sharp eyes. "You came back in such a rush, is it to find father for important business?" I looked at her in surprise, she glared at me shyly. "What kind of look is that? I am also very smart." Her voice was a bit awkward. "Running back like this, did that guy have any opinion?" Mother raised her hand and patted the back of her head. "No manners. Either call him prince heir or brother-in-law, no one is as rude as you." Scarlet looked at me, her eyes full of grievance. I smiled softly, patting her head. "Mother is right, you really lack a bit of manners. Calling him the prince heir is acceptable, but if outsiders hear you, I fear they will say the daughters of our house have no etiquette." She pouted. "I already said I'm not stupid, how could I speak recklessly outside?" Just as she finished speaking, a maid walked in from outside. "Madam, the Chancellor has returned and is currently in the study." I stood up and said, "I'm going to find father." "Scarlet, stay here and keep mother company." Arriving at the study door, the servant boy was about to bow when I raised my hand to stop him. Cough, cough, cough. The sound of coughing came from inside the study. I walked in and saw father covering his mouth with a fist, the other hand still holding a brush writing something unfinished. Father put down his brush, smiling at me. "I just heard the servants say you returned, did something happen?" After speaking, he coughed twice again. I hurriedly stepped forward to pour hot tea for him. "You are sick, why not ask for a few days off?" He took a sip, his eyebrows unconsciously knitting together. "How can I rest? The spring examination is approaching, everything is messy. Those officials dare not decide for themselves." He shook his head. I stood behind him massaging his shoulders. "They are officials, father is also an official. If father has to take care of everything, what is the need for them?" My words carried a bit of poutiness, making father laugh. "The group of new officials these past few years is indeed incapable, not like when I was young." I pretended to casually chat. "Daughter once read a story in a book. The character in the book was a poor scholar. From childhood, he was a seed of learning. From the county exam to the metropolitan exam, everything went smoothly, his fame resounding everywhere. Yet the list of presented scholars did not have his name. He considered his aptitude superior to others, even if not at the top of the list. It wouldn't reach the point of not having a name. So he beat the drum to cry injustice, endured a beating with wooden staves to be granted an audience with the emperor, then recited his essay word for word without error. Upon investigation, it was discovered that the essay bore someone else's name. It turned out there was someone who took money to secretly manipulate and steal another's merit." Father stroked his beard. "You don't need to worry too much about this matter. His Majesty values the spring examination the most. Every year he personally supervises the grading. For so many years it has never changed, even during the late emperor's time. It was not that strict." He paused and then spoke slowly. "But this matter indeed should be investigated, just to prevent any eventuality." Hearing father's words, I remained silent throughout the journey back. Could it be that I really thought wrong? Was everything just a coincidence? Returning to the Duke's estate, I sat by the window, staring unblinkingly outside. From dawn until the sky turned dark, Sebastian personally brought sweet cakes, and I hadn't even eaten dinner. What exactly happened? Tell me, maybe I can help you. My dear, you and I are husband and wife, you can trust me. I withdrew my gaze, turning to look at him. Can you tell me your understanding of the people in the imperial palace? It must be detailed, it must be truthful. I do not trust my husband, but I trust Sebastian. He laughed broadly, his tone casual. The emperor is very good, the empress is also very good, the princes and princesses are all very good. I was just disappointed because asking didn't reveal anything. His finger tapped lightly on my palm. His eyes were serious, completely contrary to his gentle voice. A terrifying thought suddenly rose in my heart. Sebastian was being monitored, even in his own home. He dared not open his mouth casually. But he was a prince heir. His father was the only duke of the court, then who made him so wary? Unless it was that person. I held his hand tightly, my whole body unable to stop trembling. My love, eat a little something, otherwise you will be hungry at night. Hearing the meaning in his words, I accepted the cake and ate slowly. Sebastian, is the person you show on the outside really your true self? That night, he and I hugged each other to sleep. In the dead of night, he pulled me up, lifted the bedboard, and underneath revealed a secret passage. I held his hand as we stepped down. He closed the board and led me deeper inside. At the end was a secret chamber with swords and weapons, books, and also a bed. In this world only you and I know of this place. He pulled me down to lie, carefully covering me with a blanket. I spoke up to ask, there is someone monitoring you. His movements paused, then he chuckled softly. My wife is wise. I felt that Sebastian at this moment was completely different from before. Tell me your story, the things you fear, the things you bury deep in your heart. Bella, you must have heard, that year a rebellion occurred in the palace. His Majesty single-handedly quelled it. Before the late emperor passed away, he left an edict passing the throne to His Majesty. That is the ascension process the world knows. Correct, I know all these things. Although I was small then, father held a high position, so naturally I heard about it. He suddenly changed his tone. But the truth is not like that. The one who initiated the rebellion that year was His Majesty. The one on the succession edict was not him, but he forged the holy decree. The late emperor died at his hands. Cold sweat broke out on my back, the blood in my body seemed to freeze. How do you know? He held me tight, embracing me completely in his arms. Because I was there. At that time I was right in the late emperor's bedchamber, witnessing everything with my own eyes. I hid under the bed for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, taking advantage of a moment when no one was paying attention, I crawled out of the palace through a dog hole at the foot of the wall, and only then managed to get home. From that time on, I have always felt there is someone watching me. Just asking a few preliminary questions would reveal I had entered the palace that day, so I could only feign stupidity. I once saw the real edict of the late emperor, only I don't know where it is now. I remember rumors among the people that His Majesty was originally nameless among the princes, not valued. Later, princes died or were demoted, and he gradually rose up. Does my dear know who His Majesty's biological mother is? She was a dancer from the U Kingdom, without status. She died after giving birth, a person from U. Such an important matter, yet almost no one knows. What else do you know? I want to hear it all, he continued. His Majesty and the Empress do not have a good relationship. Although there are many couples in the world who are harmonious on the surface but discordant inside, I find it very strange. Because years ago, the Empress and he were once very close. The change began the year the Crown Prince was established. That year the Crown Prince was 15, the 3rd year of His Majesty's reign. According to common logic, if there is a son, the Crown Prince should be established as soon as one ascends the throne, because the position of Crown Prince is the foundation of the court. Indeed, without a Crown Prince, those with ambition will surely create chaos. And if the successor is determined early, even if something happens to His Majesty, there is still the Crown Prince to hold the fort, not to the extent of causing chaos in the court and unrest in the world. Sebastian continued, after that, His Majesty still appointed the Crown Prince. But from that day on, except when forced, the Empress almost never met His Majesty, nor did she leave the cunning palace. It is like... I finished his sentence. Like imprisoning herself. He nodded. The Empress and His Majesty were a couple in their youth. The Empress back then was the daughter of a 3rd-rank official. Although she could not compare to a prince, His Majesty was not valued, and was often bullied in the palace. It was the Empress who once helped him. Later, when the two married, they were considered affectionate. It is just that only the crown prince is their shared child, the other princes and princesses are children of His Majesty with concubines. Speaking to this point, he immediately raised his hand to swear, "My love, rest assured, in this life, the next life, and the life after that, I only need you alone. No taking concubines, no side chambers, no chambermaids, and definitely not setting foot in brothels. I am different from them." I left his embrace and sat up straight. "Sebastian, I want to tell you something." He propped himself up, his eyes resting on me, quietly waiting for me to speak. "I once dreamed a dream. In the dream, Luna told me that her benefactor had died, hanged himself after the spring examination. I also dreamed that other scholars also died mysteriously immediately after participating in the spring examination. That is why when I woke up, I asked you to investigate. I suspect that there is fraud in the imperial examination, and this matter is related to His Majesty." I pursed my lips, feeling somewhat guilty in my heart. This was an extremely bold speculation, one could say earth-shattering, but it was exactly what I thought of stringing together what Father and Sebastian told me. Moreover, if it wasn't a matter serious to that extent, how could Master Orion be willing to expend himself just to let me return with my memories? I muttered. What if it really is him? What if we bring disaster upon ourselves? He gently patted the back of my hand. "Do not be afraid, I am here for everything. But I would rather guess wrong. If it is true, I dare not imagine how many tragedies actually happened in the previous life. No wonder Master Orion said Sebastian was that person. It turned out it was because he had witnessed it with his own eyes, was an insider, a witness, and also a victim. For so many years, he could only bury his inner self deep, living as the appearance that person wanted to see. The so-called favor and care were all fake. Beneath that layer of honey lay only a cold, sharp blade. If Sebastian showed even half a part of abnormality, that blade would slice across his throat. I asked Sebastian with a heartache. "These years, you lived very bitterly, didn't you?" He hugged me tight. "Not bitter. What is bitter about being a playboy young master? Moreover, being able to marry you is a good thing I wouldn't dare dream of." His words were light. But how could I not understand? A child with sensitive thoughts, understanding things early, yet having experienced such a terrible thing, unable to speak and daring not to speak. Perhaps sometimes having nightmares, waking up in the middle of the night without anyone to confide in, just hiding it for so many years, to the point of believing he was truly just a leisurely prince heir who only knew how to play. I asked him seriously, "Sebastian, if given a choice, would you choose peace or danger?" He asked me back, "If you choose peace, what will be lost? If you choose danger, what can be gained?" He was indeed very smart. I also do not know, perhaps peace for the world, people living in contentment. Or it could be something else. "Bella, in your dream, was I there? What was I like?" I suddenly looked up at him. His eyes were calm, carrying a smile. Those pure eyes were like arrows piercing the wind, going straight through my heart. "You entered the court as an official. Days were peaceful, quiet. Your body was healthy, you lived very long, very long." He continued, "Only without you, right? Bella, did you come back for me? I should have understood sooner. You suddenly choosing me must have been due to a major upheaval. You must have suffered hurt. It is just a pity that in your dream, I failed to protect you." I turned my face away, my nose stinging, my eyes heating up, a hot tear falling. He raised his hand, the tear blossomed in his palm. I leaned my head against his chest, my hands clutching the lapels at his waist. "Sebastian, why are you so good? Good to the point I do not know how to repay you. Then live to 100 years, happy and peaceful. That is your repayment to me." He took a soft handkerchief from his chest and gently wiped my tears. "Bella, what you want is also what I want. You want peace, I will give you a lifetime of peace. You want peace of mind, I will exert all my strength to fulfill your wish." I already had a lifetime of peace. This time I want the truth. I want to know about those unjustly dead commoners, want to know the price Master Orion paid. I cannot enjoy it with peace of mind. Master Orion placed hope in us, proving we are the ones to break the deadlock. Being in a high position, I cannot stand by and watch. I say help me, help them, which is also helping yourself. If we can change the current situation, perhaps he will truly get to live as himself. Save the Sebastian of years ago, the lonely, helpless, and fearful child. The next day, Sebastian entered the palace. By late afternoon of the same day, a eunuch brought an imperial decree. It was an edict appointing Sebastian as the vice minister of the court of the imperial clan. Sebastian happily received the decree, even stuffed a heavy bag of money into the eunuch's hand, then turned to show off the decree to me. I said so, my imperial uncle loves me. You kept saying I do nothing worthwhile at home, now I am going to be an official, let's see what you say. He stood with hands on hips, looking extremely smug. I saw that eunuch look back this way when he reached the gate. Did you go to beg for an official position from His Majesty? Sebastian laughed gleefully. This young master is purely a prince heir, and married too. If I still have no proper job, wouldn't I be laughed at? This morning I went into the palace to beg imperial uncle. It really made it difficult for His Majesty. He had to expend effort to find a position for me that was respectable yet not involved in power like this. I understood Sebastian's intention clearly. Only by standing in the vortex could one find the key. He was using his own body to enter the game. I said, then you must work well. Don't let people catch any weakness and submit a petition of impeachment before His Majesty. In the previous life, Sebastian entered the court only after Frederick became an official. It was for me. In this life, he entered the court earlier, still for me. He gently squeezed my wrist. I looked up to meet his gaze. That is natural. Once I have chosen this path, I will do it well, not letting others casually bully me. Who is this young master? I am the only prince heir of the entire Great Yan. Clearly he was the one getting bogged down. Yet he still reassured me, telling me not to worry. I squeezed his hand tight. Sebastian, if you are not afraid, I am not afraid either. If a price must truly be paid. Sebastian became busy, while I stayed home meticulously calculating every event of the previous life. Luna walked in. Miss, recently aren't there many scholars participating in the spring examination flocking to the capital? This servant heard the servants chatting, saying that in the tea-houses in the capital, every few days a lot of scholars gather, reading books and discussing the Tao very lively. I asked, do you want to go watch the excitement? She smiled shyly, twisting the hem of her shirt with her fingers. Miss knows, this servant is most curious about these things, but those are places where scholars go. This servant is a woman, and a servant it is not convenient to go. Confucius once said, in education there should be no class distinction. There is nothing wrong with you admiring those things. Having followed me since childhood, you haven't read few books or learned a few principles. If you want to go, just go. My court has no law forbidding women from listening to others discuss scriptures and the Tao. A smile immediately bloomed on her face. Then can the miss go with this servant? This servant is just a little afraid alone. I laughed. Following me for so many years, even in the previous life living until the end, I never heard her say the word afraid, yet now she was afraid of a crowded place. In the previous life, after marrying into the Chen family, because of having to serve my mother-in-law, Luna and I were both quite busy. Naturally, she had no chance to pay attention to these things. Perhaps in the previous life she also wanted to go, but because of my circumstances at that time, she never opened her mouth. Although I was the chancellor's daughter, when small, I was once harmed by a maid and nearly kidnapped. At that time, Luna risked her life to protect me. Later, I sent the other maids to serve elsewhere, keeping only her by my side. In the previous life, married into the Chen family, Luna saw clearly that the Chen family were all hypocrites. She cried while apologizing to me, saying she hadn't investigated clearly what kind of person Frederick was. If she had known, she wouldn't have let me marry him. I felt both amused and soft-hearted. She was just a little maid, even though I didn't see it. On what basis should she have known? She had devotedly accompanied me for a whole lifetime, even more than my parents in Scarlet. In this world, the person by my side the longest was her. Just such a small request. How could I have the heart to refuse? Seeing me nod, she was overjoyed. Miss, this servant dares not hide it. Actually, there is another reason this servant wants to go out. This servant once told the miss about that neighbor's brother. This servant thinks, barring any surprises, he must also be participating in the spring examination this time. This servant just thought if I could meet him, how good that would be. Looking at her appearance, I didn't want to disappoint her. Meet them. Arthur wouldn't dare do anything. Coming out the door, Luna went back to her room for a trip. When she came out, she had a bulging purse in her hand. She stuffed the purse into her chest, even patting it lightly a few times. You intend that if you meet Arthur, you will give all this silver to him? Luna nodded vigorously. When I was small, if not for him giving me food, I wouldn't have lived until today. His family isn't well off either. Although passing the provincial exam means the magistrate surely rewarded some silver, being poor at home but rich on the road. Expenses in the capital are expensive. Since he wants to take the exam, he can't be disadvantaged. I frowned slightly. You aren't keeping a little for your own dowry? Luna was momentarily stunned, then shook her head. This servant never thought about getting married. Since Brother Zheng saved me, I am willing to use everything I have to repay him. But the miss is the most important person to this servant. This servant's life belongs to the miss. This servant wants to follow and serve the miss for a lifetime. This was not the first time she said such words. It was just that in the previous life, when she said those sentences, she was mature and calmer. Her eyes and voice always carried a bit of weathering not fitting her age. Right, the Luna of this life and the Luna of the previous life were not the same. That change was just like me. I suppressed the trembling in my heart and opened my mouth. Luna, what do you think of Frederick? She said. Young Master Chen has dignified features, a bright bearing, and is not a bad person. Then she added, Miss, don't be angry. But before, he was clearly associated with the miss, yet on the day of proposing he turned to propose to the second miss. This servant sees he is not good. 2 lifetimes, fragments of memories slowly superimposed. Incorrect, something was incorrect. In the previous life, she clearly also thought Frederick was a person one could marry, and even said the Chen family was not involved in court struggles, and the Chen family would not dare bully me because of my father's power. After being reborn, I carefully observed everyone and everything around me, afraid something had changed. But I neglected Luna. The little maid follows by my side every day. If I could return, what about Luna? Did she return again or not? I reached the present, while she returned to the past. At that time I was completely unaware. The Luna of the present was also completely unaware, like a circle. We were in that circle. She changed my past, I changed her present, but I didn't understand why Luna pushed me to marry Frederick. Her words from the past echoed in my ears. Miss, my life is yours. Miss, I only hope you are peaceful, without illness or disaster, living a full peaceful life. Miss, don't be afraid, Luna will always be by your side. I looked at her smiling naively. Luna, in this absurd and strange story, what role are you exactly playing? The carriage was moving when it suddenly stopped. I couldn't guard in time, my body pitching forward. Luna immediately pulled me back. Seeing I was fine, she got out of the carriage. What happened? A woman ran out in front and was accidentally hit. I got out and saw a woman fallen on the ground, holding her stomach. Luna had helped her up. Miss, what should we do? Where is the nearest clinic? The coachman replied. Walking would take the time of an incense stick. Help her onto the carriage to change route to the clinic. Get on the carriage. The woman, who had been unconscious, opened her eyes, grasped my hand tightly, and stuffed a piece of paper into my hand. I know the matter you are investigating. I clenched the paper into a fist, my gaze resting on that woman's ordinary face. She pulled my hand and wrote a few words in my palm. The death of the late emperor. I held her hand, stopping the movement, and glanced guardedly outside. Arriving at the clinic, the doctor checked once, only saying it was nothing serious, just rest for a month, no heavy work. Luna went to brew medicine. The woman lay on the bed looking at me and opened her mouth. This place allows talking. The guarded look in my eyes did not fade. She said, clinics don't forbid talking. Miss Ming, you know what I am saying. I looked at her sharply. Who told you? She shook her head slightly. I cannot say. Then she continued, I know what you all want to do. I have no ill will towards you. I came to help you because what you want to do is also what I want to do. She hesitated for a moment then said, I used to be a palace maid by the late emperor's side. My name is Madame Willow. My fingertips trembled slightly, but I still tried to remain calm. Where is the proof? She was not angry at my attitude. I have the late emperor's edict in my hand, everything fits. Sebastian once said he had seen the late emperor's edict but couldn't find its trace. Madame Willow looked at me, her eyes like looking at a life-saving straw, and continued, on the late emperor's edict, the duke is the true heir to the throne. That year, the late emperor discovered many suspicious points in the things the princes did, seemingly intentionally led by someone else. When the late emperor reacted, only the duke and the current majesty were left in the palace. And his majesty has the blood of the Yu kingdom. Historically, he was never on the list of successors. The late emperor then left an edict, giving it to me, arranging for me to leave the palace. He said if I heard news of his passing and the person ascending was not the duke, then carefully hide it and wait for the ripe opportunity. The great Yan Empire can be in anyone's hands, but absolutely cannot fall into the hands of a foreigner. because those not of our kin are sure to have different hearts. That year His Majesty was born unexpectedly. The late emperor benevolently spared his life, never expecting him to have the ambition of a wolf. In recent years, Great Yan's national strength has weakened day by day. The people suffer. He only wants to enjoy the power brought by imperial authority while on the throne, then after death drag Great Yan to destruction with him. That is his revenge. Speculating was one thing, but touching the truth with one's own eyes was another. I only felt my throat choked. But he has been emperor for so many years, this is also his world. Madame Willow laughed coldly. Because this world was not conquered by him, but stolen by him. He is not a person of Great Yan, naturally, he does not consider the Great Yan people his subjects. He is a robber, how can ill-gotten gains be truly cherished? A dog wearing a wolf's skin is still a dog, nothing will change. Miss Ming, you can change everything. If the world continues in his hands, Great Yan will perish, the people will suffer, blood will flow like a river on this land. She got off the bed, kneeling deeply before me. I beg Miss Ming to help me. After speaking, she bowed her head, hitting her forehead on the ground. I said, you are just a maid, no rank or position, you could have ignored this matter. Do you know this matter will cost your life? Madame Willow looked up, her expression calm, her eyes firm without fear, her voice decisive. If the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. I indeed could stand aside, but I am a subject of Great Yan, I love this land. I do not want 100 years from now, Great Yan to no longer exist. The people on this land trampled by foreign invaders. Even if I have to lose a life, so what? Even if just a maid, so what? Humble status but great righteousness is clear. I bent down to help her up. What a coincidence, we have the same wish, this is also a responsibility I cannot shirk. Only, the person who can change everything is not me but Sebastian, and I am a crucial link in that. Madame Willow handed the edict to me, I hid it in my sleeve. I asked Madame Willow, who helped you all these years? The late emperor passed away, his forces must have been affected. Relying on yourself alone, it would be hard to hide safely for all these years. I need to know who is on our side. Madame Willow lowered her eyes to think for a moment. It was Her Highness the Princess Royal who helped me. Reasonable, yet beyond expectation. Was the prince consort also killed by His Majesty? Madame Willow revealed a look of grief and indignation. Yes, the Princess Royal and the Prince Consort were a heaven-born pair. The Princess Royal discovered His Majesty's wolfish ambition, he then killed the Prince Consort to threaten the princess. Fortunately, the princess was not impulsive, otherwise, I fear she would have also. His Majesty killed so many people, why did he let the Duke and the Princess Royal survive? Madame Willow also revealed a puzzled look, perhaps because those two people had once helped His Majesty. At that time His Majesty was still small, almost neglected, those above didn't pay attention, those below didn't serve diligently. Later the Princess Royal saw he was pitiful and often ordered people to look after him. The Duke had a pure nature and also helped His Majesty many times back then. The Duke had no interest in the throne, perhaps because he posed no threat, he was kept. I vaguely felt that the Princess Royal perhaps knew more than we thought. Luna brought the brewed medicine in. On the way back, I saw Luna was a bit down in spirit. She touched her face. Miss, is there something on my face? Why do you keep looking at me? I laughed softly. Just seeing that my Luna is getting more and more beautiful. Luna's face immediately turned pink. Oh, miss, where am I beautiful? You are teasing me again. Getting off the carriage, I reflexively looked up at the sky, just like a dense net covering me, as if every step I took was already arranged. Was going to meet Madame Willow the reason Luna took me out. I didn't want to question her about anything. I just wanted that one day she could tell me the things she hid from me herself. At this point, I naturally no longer thought Luna was just a little maid who knew nothing. Hiding so many things, she was also very tired. In the final years of the previous life, Great Yan's national power was severely weakened. Surrounding countries continuously invaded, Great Yan was repeatedly defeated. At that time His Majesty had long passed away. The new emperor was the current crown prince. Although he tried very hard, it was difficult to resist the great trend. Frederick once indignantly lamented that the court was full of civil and military officials but not a single usable person. Great Yan at that time was like a paper tiger, only having a false reputation. From being worshipped by 10,000 nations, it reached the point where any country could come and win a battle. I was in the inner courtyard and didn't see much. Perhaps not long after I died, Great Yan reached its end. The people were massacred, the territory divided, leaving for posterity only a desolate ruin and a segment of history not very glorious. How will later generations view the great Yan of the present? Incompetent, tragic. I do not want such an ending. I handed the edict to Sebastian. My part of the work is done, the rest is left to him. He is the person Master Orion called Heaven's Mandate. He will definitely succeed, we will definitely win. Before that, I want to go meet the Princess Royal once. I went to the princess's estate, servants led me to the lakeside. The Princess Royal was fishing. You're here. Sit down. I sat down next to her. She waved her hand. Everyone around withdraw. Let me guess, you came to find me. Surely you have doubts and feel I can give you the answer, right? Yes, please enlighten me, Your Highness. She waved the fan in her hand. A long time ago I came to this place, strange to everything, both afraid and excited. I once thought I was the destined one. Thought I could turn the tide and save the crumbling empire. Thought that just by solving the calamity from the root, there would be no more issues later. But until the people beside me died one by one, the last one being my husband, I realized I couldn't do anything. But you guys can. Everything has its own way of resolution, and you are the answer. From the place we came from, this place is a part of history, vast, tragic, carrying a sorrowful color. We always like hypotheses, assuming if Great Yan did not perish would the future be better, could those humiliations be avoided? More than that, I cannot say. You must try hard, the things you carry on your shoulders are too many, too heavy. What does try hard mean? She laughed loudly, giving a thumbs up towards me. It means effort, this gesture means you are very good. Perhaps Sebastian had started to act, busy to the point of not having free hands. One night, he held me in his arms, his arm tightening around my waist. My dear, tomorrow I will arrange for you to leave the city to go up the mountain to offer incense, just follow them. Wait for everything to end, I will come find you. Rest assured, mother-in-law and your sister, and my mother will all go together, you'll not be lonely. My heart suddenly tightened. Okay, I will go with them, but I just don't want to hold you back. If you die, I will go find you. You once accompanied me in death, I will not let you be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. I just hope everything Master Orion said is true. There is light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how many more storms, Great Yan will not die. The next day, I got into the carriage with my mother-in-law, while another carriage carried my mother and Scarlet. Scarlet greeted my mother-in-law and then got into the same carriage with me. Why did you suddenly call me and mother to go offer incense together? This must be Sebastian's excuse. He has made proper arrangements for everything. The carriage stopped at the foot of the mountain. There were few people in the temple, unusually cold compared to before, but I knew in the dark there must be guards stationed. We stayed at the temple, night fell, and I couldn't sleep. Sitting in the courtyard looking towards the capital, there was a noise. Scarlet yawned as she walked out. What are you thinking about, sister? She touched my hand, frowning and blowing warm air on it. Why not wear more clothes? Scarlet, what wish did you write that day? Scarlet said heroically, I hope to be like mother in the future, becoming a general going to the battlefield to protect the mountains and rivers. My wish will definitely come true, becoming a great general leaving a name for eternity. Sister will be fine, right? I looked at her. She pursed her lips, her eyes carrying a few parts of hesitation. I know the capital is about to be in chaos. Otherwise, with that brother-in-law sticking to you like that, how could he not follow you up the mountain to offer incense? He simply can't bear to leave you. Rest assured, sister, I will protect everyone. When coming here, I brought all my swords. In the previous life, Scarlet was indeed a general fighting at the border. Wherever she guarded, the enemy dared not approach, often killed until they fled in disarray. But she only guarded one frontier, while Great Yan was rotting from the root. Fortunately, she lived very long, at least when I passed away. She was still alive. I was glad Scarlet lived long, glad my father died early. If he had lived to see the situation of Great Yan later, I fear he would only be more pained and helpless. I knelt at the feet of the Buddha, chanting scriptures over and over again. That night, I heard the sound of weapons clashing. When I ran out, Scarlet had already brought my mother-in-law. We went into my mother's room together. Mother and Scarlet stood blocking the front, each holding a long sword, under the moonlight. The sword blades shone coldly. Bella, Duchess, do not be afraid. With me here, how dare those villains act recklessly? Outside, the chaos grew louder, footsteps, screams. Gradually the sounds subsided. We stepped out of the room. A youth in armor appeared. princess consort. This subordinate follows the prince heir's orders to protect everyone here. The duchess looked closely. Aren't you the brat from Grand Tutor Lin's house? Every day playing around idly, ignoring proper business, didn't expect you to have this appearance. The youth looked embarrassed. You can't judge a person by appearance. Actually, I'm not bad either. Be careful. Unknown from where, an arrow shot towards me. Luna rushed up to block in front of me. The arrow pierced straight into her heart. Her gray clothes were dyed with blossoming blood. I was stunned on the spot until I was pulled back into the room by Scarlet. The youth carried Luna in. Blood continuously gushed from her mouth. I held her, using a handkerchief to wipe the blood, calling for a doctor. She held my hand. Miss, this servant has a few words to say to you. Don't speak. Wait until you recover. I have a lot of time to listen to you. They went to invite the doctor. Miss, this servant cannot live anymore. Please listen to this servant say a few sentences. Everyone quietly left, leaving the room to us. Actually, my name is Graceful. My father was the crown prince of the previous dynasty. My mother was the crown princess. Father died, mother also passed away. I was hidden by my wet nurse. She wanted to take me away from the capital, but she also died. I drifted to a family. They adopted me as a daughter. One day I was dizzy from hunger. A young Taoist saved me. He said I couldn't die, I still had work to do. He brought me to you, telling me when to do what. He said you could save very, very many people, including Arthur. Letting you suffer so much is my fault towards you. If there is a next life, I will definitely let you live a whole life safely and smoothly. Nothing else is needed. Miss, don't be heartbroken for me. Master Orion said I might have to pay a price. This is my price. You must live well. Help me give the purse to Arthur. Tell him, thank you for giving me the flatbread. Having finished those words, she closed her eyes, breathing no more. The sky in the east gradually brightened, the sun rose high, warm light falling on her body. Luna, it's dawn, wake up. I don't know how long passed, the door opened. Sebastian walked in carrying a cold aura, his whole body covered in blood. My dear, I am here. My eyes are dry, I cannot cry anymore. A long time later, I moved my lips slightly. That is good. Only the person in my arms, no matter what, cannot be warmed up again. I brought Luna's body back to the capital. Before the world, I announced her true identity, letting her be buried in the imperial mausoleum lying next to the former crown prince and crown princess. On the tombstone, she regained her name. Her name is Grace Lee, Grace for wise, Lie for peace. She was Sebastian's cousin. The usurper died. It was said he was accidentally hit by a stray arrow and lost. This death was somewhat anticlimactic. Sebastian ascended the throne, personally presiding over the spring examination in the palace hall. I saw Arthur sitting below, writing his essay stroke by stroke. Sebastian personally named him the top scholar. After leaving the Great Hall, I ordered someone to stop him. This commoner greets Her Highness the Empress. I accepted another's request. There is an object to give to you. The maid gave the purse to him. In just a moment, Arthur's eyes turned red. The owner of this purse, where has your highness met her? Please let me know. She is the person I love. I will say a sentence to you on her behalf. She said, thank you for giving her the flatbread. Arthur clutched the purse tightly, his face pale. He kowtowed before me and then turned to leave. That back figure no longer had the spirit of the past, stooped a few degrees. I called him back. You must know her name. Her name is Grace Lee, Grace for wise, Lee for peace. Thank you, your highness. I know what I should do. Sebastian bestowed an official position on Arthur. He did not care about other matters, only wholeheartedly devoted himself to court affairs. He was using his own way to protect the person in his heart. When I met Madame Willow again, she once again kowtowed before me. I asked what she wanted to do in the future. She said she wanted to guard the imperial mausoleum. I said with her merit, she could completely become a female official. She shook her head. No need. I just want to be at the imperial mausoleum, just like before, guarding beside His Majesty. Sending Madame Willow off. When I returned, the Princess Royal was already sitting in the main hall drinking tea. Perhaps I am about to leave. Really? She shrugged. I am not sure either, just a premonition, a kind of intuition. If one day I die, you do not need to be sad, I am just returning home. Now, everything has changed. Is the place you see still the same as before? She thought for a moment, then said, not necessarily. It is very likely that the ending still hasn't changed, but a new ending will be born, just like parallel space-times. Same group of people, same event, your change only affects a different branch. In the original branch, The ending could not be fixed, but you have changed, perhaps in a different world. Another me sees a result that is no longer the same. In short, it is a good thing. The Princess Royal left, her premonition was correct. Half a month later, the Princess Royal's estate sent news. She is gone, passed away in her sleep, and didn't wake up again. Perhaps she opened her eyes in another place, returning the life that originally belonged to her. Scarlet requested an edict, wanting to go to the border. My mother, although reluctant to part, thinking of herself in the past, finally agreed. My mother patted her shoulder. Live with dignity. If you are careless and die, you will make your mother lose face. Conversely, my father was afraid mother would hear, hiding in the courtyard at night to cry secretly. But mother still heard. When recounting to me, she was very smug. Don't I understand him? The day I was pregnant, he hid in the courtyard and cried. When giving birth to you children, he cried. When you got married, he still cried. I went to meet Master Orion. I heard Grace say, years ago she met a young Taoist, was it you? Master Orion nodded. It was me. I looked at the person before me, clearly extremely old. He smiled helplessly. No other way, you all have to bear karma. I defied heaven to change fate, naturally. I also cannot escape. Back then I was also young and handsome. In my sect I was even the most handsome. Thank you. Being a person outside the mundane world, he shouldn't have interfered in these matters. I heard that immortals in the Immortals, Gathering Valley are all long, live, still looking like youths after 100 years. Master Orion was calm. I inherently have a soft heart, couldn't bear to see living creatures plunged into misery. As for life and death, it is just an external thing. Coming down from the star-gazing tower, Sebastian stood waiting for me below, sunlight covering his body. Seeing me, he reached out his hand. Let's go. Let's go home. The story of Isabella and Sebastian teaches us that destiny is not a fixed script, but a canvas we paint with our choices. While a second chance at life is a miracle, it is our courage that defines its value. We learn that true love is about mutual cherish and protection, not the endurance of suffering for the unworthy. Furthermore, personal happiness is inextricably linked to the greater good. A meaningful life is not measured by its length, but by the willingness to stand against injustice and the legacy of peace we leave behind for others. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.